Broadcom's slogan is connecting everything, right? And also Broadcom is known because of the connection products like the wireless and the wired Ethernet switches. So, but I did a little research because Broadcom has 26 business units, including the recent acquisition of VMware software. So how do you align the vision connecting everything with so many diverse business units?
Yes, great question. So yes, we have actually 26, we call them divisions.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we use the word division. For some of you, it might be a bad word. For us, it's a good word. We want each of these business units and divisions to stand on its own. And when you stand on your own, you will get the title of what we call a sustainable franchise. That is the most important title you can get as a division inside Broadcom. It means you have to sustain yourself on your own. So I am very lucky and proud to be running 17 of
Wow.
the 26 sustainable franchises at Broadcom. And my boss and mentor, Hock Tan, the remaining 9, which are all the software businesses, including VMware that we have. So you might ask yourself, what does sustainable franchise mean? It's very simple. It has 3 elements. One, a 10-year market horizon. Remember what I said, for us, we have a view of 10.
Yeah.
We always look at any market 10 years. Now, you might say, and maybe when you go to MBA schools, they'll teach you to go after these big growth markets. We don't like that. We actually prefer a sustainable market, even if it's flat or even if it's declining a few percentage points. Of course, if it's growing like AI, that's even better. But we want a sustainable market for 10 years. That's number one. Number two, we talked about it, technology, but specific, which means you have to have the best engineers. As you know, these complex chips are built by us, by the best engineers who have so much experience. You might ask me, can you use AI to help? Of course. But AI is not going to build you a 100 terabit per second chip.
Right.
AI can help you with some of the modules, libraries possibly, verification of that chip, but won't build it. So you have to have the best engineers and invest in them. That's R&D. And the third piece is execution and profitability. Make sure you execute on the roadmap, not screw that up, and then make sure that you have a certain level of profit. So in the 17 businesses I have on the hardware side, my job is to make every one of these is a sustainable franchise. And if you're not a sustainable franchise, you are kicked out of Broadcom. You do not belong to Broadcom. So it's very tough. You need to exist on your own. You have to have the best technology. You have to be in a market that exists for 10 years, and you have to execute, and you become a sustainable franchise.
That's very impressive. So remember 3 things, like 10 years vision, like technology, and also the execution.
Correct.
Execution actually is very most important. I know a lot of Broadcom friends. I think they work really hard. Yeah.
Yes, you can ask my wife too here.
So another thing I want to mention is you are you're actually leading the AI infrastructure at Broadcom, right? So there's a shift from computation-centric computation paradigm to interconnection-centric computation paradigm. So can you dive deep a little bit more? What's the difference and how Broadcom can help?
Yeah. Actually, you reminded me of my thesis when I did my PhD.
Networking, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
So I did that many decades ago. And at the time, it was about how do you deliver, this was prior to the internet, and the plan was how do you deliver packets? And at the time, we were moving from cells to packets. So, and as we know today, all of this is done through packets and large messages. So how do you deliver these packets with low latency, with minimal congestion control, with the right quality of service, without losing packets? How do you deliver that effectively? And when it comes to AI, it's the same problems we've been trying to solve for decades in networking and distributed, that AI now is actually going to be the right use case for this. And for me, this is why I'm very excited about this. This is sort of a core competency to Broadcom. This is what we do. So if you look at these large clusters, today, some of the largest clusters are moving from about 30,000 GPUs or XPUs to about 100,000 GPUs or XPUs. And as you can imagine, these GPUs or XPUs have to talk to each other, and have to talk to each other in a fashion where you have a lot of capacity and you properly do congestion control. And I have to say, I am very lucky and honored to have the engineers we have at Broadcom, because That's exactly what we do. And now to build 100,000, 500,000, or 1 million GPU, XPU cluster, the network becomes more important than the processor. And that becomes a distributed networking platform that you need for your distributed compute large cluster, whether it's 100,000 or 1 million. And this is what excites us at Broadcom. So some of the key differentiators you asked me about. One is the switch, which I showed you. Two is optics. We actually have our fabs. We fab our own semiconductor components for these technologies. Three, we have our own SerDes that's best in the world that allows you to have the lowest power, longest reach. Four, we have the best DSPs in the world today, and we've actually proven that in 5 nanometer. Some of the partners we have here on the memory side, we've been working with them to integrate HBMs and connect them to these compute dies at the fastest, highest performance, lowest power, lowest latency platform. So we are able now to actually take networking as a connectivity, not just GPU to GPU, XPU to XPU, but more importantly, as these GPUs and XPUs are becoming basically a full chip in a package, you need connectivity inside the chips. And that connectivity is what we do. So for me, it's extremely exciting to say we are helping the whole world reinvent in a cluster, GPU to GPU, and I would say even more importantly, inside the GPUs and XPUs, the connectivity between the chiplets and the memory at the lowest power and at the lowest cost too.
Yeah. So SerDes is very difficult, and
Yes.
DSP is also difficult. And then you put together, build a very, very high capacity or very high bandwidth switch. That's also a lot of engineer effort. So that's really impressive. A follow-up question is, I know because I was working in this industry for many years, right? I work for hyperscalers as well. So I know a lot of hyperscalers are your customers. So what's your secret? So how do you win these customers? And how do you differentiate? And why the customer choose you instead of some other people? Yeah.
Actually, a couple of things. One, and I have to say, I would put maybe the first thing on that list is technology. Remember what I told you about the sustainable franchise? The hyperscalers, if you don't have the best technology, because they're so competitive and they're so smart and they're so large, they probably would not contemplate using your technology. So I would say the first thing that for over, I would say almost 2 decades, personally, I've been engaged with the top hyperscalers, and the number one thing that's helped at least Broadcom is our ability to bring the most innovative technology that they look at and see that it can help them in building their infrastructure, their clusters, and I would say in the fields that we've discussed, whether it's SerDes all the way to switching, or even storage, because that's some of the big franchises we have, I would say technology is the number one thing. Two, honestly, quality and execution. You know, if you buy a Broadcom chip, you are going to get predictable execution. Three, the thing that I've been emphasizing over the last 2 years since I have been managing all of the 17 hardware businesses is humility. We need to stay humble. Even if we have the best technology, I think it's very important for us to stay humble and continue to lead in technology and execution. So I would say the 3 things that we do is ensure that we understand what the customer needs and technology roadmaps are and be the first to deliver this, like the switch that I showed you. In 2023, we're the first in 50T. We're going to be the first in 100T. We're going to be the first in 200T, and so forth. And the same for the rest of the franchises. We have to make sure we give quality and execution, because when you run these big platforms, imagine a cluster of 100,000 nodes. If you start having failures, your training job, for example, would not converge, and you would have to run it for weeks and months. And when you buy Broadcom technology, you know that it's reliable. And then I believe it's really important to stay humble and continue to execute. Don't let it get to your head when you become